So I want to talk to you today about when I did my first cross-country road trip to move to Los Angeles. And, going from a small town like Williamsburg, Virginia, colonial Williamsburg, the birthplace of the nation, and heading out to Los Angeles, and most notably, Hollywood, or Hollywood, as they say. Man, what a huge culture shock. But packing up my B2000 pickup truck, and I had a Mesa Boogie 412 cab and an SOB head, Mesa SOB, the son of the original Boogie, basically a take on the Mark I. And I had a Zion Super Strat, I had a blue Jackson Soloist, and I had a Hamer Steve Stevens. And I think for effects, I had it wasn't an SPX 90, but it was the little small version of that. And then I also had a Tascam 244 4-track that I would use to write songs with. And that's what I headed to Los Angeles with. I probably only had one suitcase. I didn't have any furniture. So we lived in this little apartment called Lanewood Pines. And man, it was super rough. But I remember, it took us 3 days to get out there. And I think on the second day, or maybe it took us 4 days. But one day we stopped in Las Vegas, and we got there around evening time. And I was probably only 18 at the time. And but I had an ID. I had an ID that I'd gotten from one of the restaurants that I'd worked at. And I would pull that out if someone, tried to card me or whatever. And the guy in the picture looked nothing like me, but people would just go, "Oh, he's got an ID. Okay, yeah." Just, it was another Virginia, guy. So they figured we all looked the same, right? So we stopped in Las Vegas, and we stayed at the Jamaica Inn, which is obviously no longer there, but this was a motel on the Las Vegas Strip. And we went in a few of the casinos, and I had a couple rum and cokes, and played some slot machines. I had a bag of quarters that I had brought out on the trip, and then we headed to Los Angeles the next day. And so it's only 3 or 4 hours from Los Angeles, maybe 6, I don't remember. But we got to Los Angeles, and it was me and my dad, and we did this road trip together. He was gonna get me out there and then fly home. So we got to Los Angeles, and we got in this apartment, that we had set up. And, again, it was not the greatest. But then it's like, okay, let's go to the Strip. And man, back then it was just like a centrifugal force that you would just pull me into the Strip. It was like I was driven there. It kept, it was like a miner driven to gold. And the first night, we walked down from, and I was about at Hollywood and close to Hollywood and La Brea. And we walked down to Sunset, and then walked all the way from La Brea, all the way to the Strip. And when we got to the Rainbow, which is the famous, haunt there on the Strip, we paid the $5 each to get in and get a drink. And we went in the Rainbow. Now, it was not very busy that night, but there was a, decent crowd, and we got our drinks. And again, I used the fake ID, and they just waved me in. It was, and we got our drinks, and we're kind of standing there, and it's me and my dad, and we're sitting there. Now, on the way out to Los Angeles, you have a lot of time, and it's a long drive. So I brought a bunch of cassettes, for the drive. And so we were listening to different stuff on the way out there. And one of the things that I brought out there was an Yngwie Malmsteen Rising Force cassette. And so we listened to that on the way out there, and I told my dad about this is Yngwie, and he sweep picks, and he, does all this stuff, and I showed him the picture on the cover and everything. So we get out to Los Angeles. We walk all the way from La Brea and Sunset to the Rainbow. We end up in the Rainbow, and we're kind of standing in that hallway between where the bar is inside. Back in those days, now it's, they have this patio out there, Lemmy's Lounge and all that, and everybody seems to kind of hang outside because there's no smoking inside anymore. And but back in those days, clubs and bars, you could smoke inside. So it was much more of an inside hang, going to the Rainbow and going inside, and so we're standing there, and all of a sudden I look out of the corner of my left eye as this guy, he's drunk. It's Yngwie. So we had just spent the entire trip, probably listened to that cassette maybe a couple of times, because after a while, after a few days of on the road, you're you start to recycle. Oh well, let's listen to Yngwie again. So here we are, my first day in Los Angeles, and we've got our first Rockstar sighting, and Yngwie was holding his drink, and he walked by us, and he was hammered. Okay, now he would probably tell you today if that he wasn't, but I'm telling you, Yngwie was hammered. And so, I told my dad, look, that's Yngwie. And it was just like so amazing because, I've been listening to this guy, for probably a year. And to come out to Los Angeles and boom, there's the guy, there's the legend himself, the maestro, Yngwie J. Malmsteen. I mean, it was just incredible. Now, that was an uneventful night. I think we had our 2 drinks and we walked back, or we may even have gotten a cab back because, man, that was a long walk. But back in those days, I walked that trek several times where I would just feel that motivation, that pull to go down to the Sunset Strip. And so I would walk all that way. And back in those days, man, the Strip was absolutely rocking. I've had people in my comments, talk about how they go out there now and it's like a museum. There's nothing going on. The clubs, they've got tribute acts, or they've got, old bands playing. And it's nothing like it was in the past. But I will tell this to everybody that's out there and listening and wants to know what the Strip was like. Man, it was absolutely incredible. You could go there and one night on the Strip would change your life. And I had several friends that, the trajectory of their life was instantly changed in just one night on the Sunset Strip. So we'll save some of that for another episode, but I thought you might enjoy that. Thanks so much for watching.